Before we proceed with the items on the agenda, I need to remind you of the usual housekeeping messages. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave the chamber by the nearest door. Then follow the illuminated fire exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. Would you all ensure that your mobile phones and tablet devices are on silent mode? And a gentle reminder about appropriate behaviour in the chambers. We ask that everyone respect councillors and officers when business is being carried out. If a member of the public interrupts the proceedings, I shall intervene accordingly. You have the right to film this meeting if you wish to, but I'd like to know now before we begin whether anyone within the room plans to do this. If you intend to film the meeting or part of it, would you please indicate now? No. Okay. So the first item on this evening's agenda is apologies for absence. We have received apologies from Councillor Sorensen, Councillors Bridge and Beavers and Councillor Rayner. Are there any more apologies to be submitted? No, thank you. So the next item is the confirmation of minutes. Please can I have a proposal that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of October 2024 be approved as a correct record?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that proposal?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second, thank you.
Does anyone wish to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment? Councillor Fail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two minor amendments. On page 6, item 20, with regard to Councillor Higginson's raising a motion, can we just add, before it says he proposed to suspend the 10-minute rule, 10-minute time limit, can we add, due to the need to ask a number of important questions regarding PFOA contamination? I think it's important that it says why that suspension was requested. And also on page 8, item 20A, which regarding a question I asked, just after it says he wanted an update to confirm the current status of the development, could I add, which I did ask for an update on the status, can I add that I did ask, and to know the council's position following recent warnings from scientists that incinerators are a disaster for the climate, because that was what I was asking. I was asking for what the council's current position was. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just come in and confirm that the amendment's valid and acceptable. I'll need a seconder for those amendments. Thank you. Are there any more amendments? Councillor Swatton.
Thank you. It's on page 10. It says Councillor Swatton raised comments about in regards to the multi-agency dedicated webpage. I did. I also asked about the letter that was being sent out to residents. So just like that added on, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to accept that amendment as well. I'll need a seconder for that amendment. Okay, thank you. As there are multiple valid amendments and they're all from the Labour group, can I suggest that they're all voted on together? Okay.
So all those in favour of the amendments to the minutes, please now clearly indicate.
Oh, can we have it shouted what the council leaders just said about the note?
Those against? Any abstentions? So the amendment to the minutes are approved. We will now move on to the vote on the amendment to the minutes. Would those members present at the 24th of October meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record and the inclusion of the amendments please clearly indicate? All those for? So that's unanimous. The meetings of the 24th of October meeting are confirmed. The next item on the agenda is item 3, declarations of interest. I need to inform members that the monitoring officer and the chair of the Audit and Standards Committee passed a resolution granting a dispensation to all councillors to participate and vote on the Housing Benefit War Pension Disregard Policy Modified Scheme on the grounds that it is in the interests of the persons living in the borough for as many members as possible to be able to debate and decide on the issue. Councillors do not therefore need to declare an interest in agenda item 9 just because they received the support. Does any member or officers have any additional interest to declare on any items included in the agenda? No? Okay. The next item is item 4, announcements. Let's just go with this now. I just have a few announcements this evening. I'd like first of all to welcome our newly elected councillor for the Marsh Mill Ward, Councillor Crawford. Welcome to your first full council meeting. I want to congratulate the many teams and volunteers of Wyre staff who have contributed to the North West in Bloom Awards 2024. Many of Wyre's towns and villages won awards. I also went to wish Garstang in Bloom lots of luck as they represent the North West in Bloom at the national competition in 2025. I'd also like to congratulate Poulton Community Hall, Care for Cleveleys and Fleetwood Beach Wheelchairs for their King's Award. What an amazing achievement. I think I'd also like to again remind all councillors that my Mayor Diary is now published on the Wyre website, and please feel free to join me at many of the Christmas festivities that are coming up across the borough. I know I've already spoken to a few of you about things that are coming up. We have no public questions, so we will move on to item 6, questions on notice from councillors, with which we have one. A question has been submitted by Councillor Fayle. This has been attached to your agenda packs. Councillor Fayle, would you introduce and ask your question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At October's full council meeting, a question was raised regarding the status and the impact of the proposed energy from waste plant at the Hill House Enterprise Zone. In the absence of the leader at that meeting, a written response was provided as follows. There are 2 waste-to-energy facilities being considered at Hill House. Sasona Limited has planning permission which was granted in April 2024 by LCC. Sasona are seeking funding to deliver the development. They hope to start construction in early 2025. The other developer, Zetrov, purchased the ex-Vinalit warehouse building at Hill House. They have not yet submitted a planning application to LCC for their facility. Although this provided an update in terms of status, it didn't answer the impact part of the question. The question about impact was prompted by October's BBC report into incinerators. As stated at the October meeting, according to BBC analysis, burning household rubbish in giant incinerators to make electricity is now the dirtiest way the UK generates power. It concludes that burning waste is as bad as coal in terms of greenhouse gases. With nearly half of the rubbish produced in UK homes, including increasing amounts of plastic, now being incinerated, scientists are warning it is a disaster for the climate, and some are calling for a ban on new incinerators. Therefore, will this council urgently demand that this project be paused in order for Wyre Council to call for an independent environmental impact assessment that provides residents and councillors an honest assessment of the impact of this dirty energy proposal on residents, air quality and Wyre's climate change commitments, ensuring the independent assessment also takes full account of any findings into the known PFOA contamination at the Hill House site. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent, would you please respond to the question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify the answer you were given, the planning permission has not yet been issued in respect of the waste-to-energy plant proposal from Sasona Limited for the Energy Recovery Centre, as no Section 106 agreement has yet been reached. As can be seen in Wyre Council's response to this planning application, the responsibility for completing an environmental impact assessment rests entirely with LCC, who, as Councillor Fayol is fully aware, are the planning authority for any developments that relate to waste and both of these applications. If Councillor Fayol feels that the environmental impact assessment was inadequate, he should contact LCC and make them aware of this. He should also ask the MP to raise this with the Secretary of State, who has the power to call in this application, both applications. The application by Zetrov has not yet been considered by LCC, but my advice is the same. Councillor Fayol should ask the MP to call the decision in. As to the carbon impact, it's very difficult to answer these questions, as the emissions from burning waste differ significantly depending on what waste is being burnt. DEFRA state that waste to energy has a key role to play in moving England away from landfill, and emission limits are set well below the level that harm the environment or human health. The suggestion is that the greenhouse gas emissions from energy to waste plants compares favourably to those from landfill. Without projects like this, it is difficult to see an end for landfill sites such as the one at Jameson Road, which it is my understanding that the people of Fleetwood and Thornton would like to see close because of the issues with the smell. It is not for this council to demand an environmental impact assessment be produced. That is the responsibility of LCC, and if Councillor Fayol feels they have not complied with this duty correctly, the appropriate person to raise this is the Member of Parliament, who should ask the Secretary of State to call both applications in, as she has the power to do. I saw the same article on the BBC that Councillor Fayol did and was concerned by these proposals, but the comparison the BBC draw between waste to energy and coal is not a fair one. Unburnt coal stays in the ground and does little harm. Unburnt waste goes to landfill and itself emits carbon, which is not included in the BBC's figures, as in my view it should be. DEFRA's position on this is that the emissions from landfill and waste to energy plants compare favourably, and so while intervention by the Secretary of State would be welcome to ensure the environmental assessment is as robust as possible, the position is not as simple as the BBC and Councillor Fayol's question suggest.
Councillor Fayol, you do have the opportunity to raise a supplementary question if you wish. This must arise directly from the original question or the reply given.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we now have a known PFOA contamination that would not have occurred had we known about the impact decades earlier than we did. But now we've got a plan for 1 or 2 incinerators where we have got a very good idea that the impact is going to be, what the impact is going to be, yet there is a lack of willingness to take action. For the benefit of residents listening to the audio recording, can you please confirm that you are choosing to sit on your hands, allowing this attack on our environment and allowing the detrimental impact on both Wyre's climate change commitment and the health of residents living in Wyre? Imported waste to Jameson Road causing environmental health issues on land owned by Wyre, PFOA contamination from Wyre's enterprise zone, and now a dirty energy incinerator that is bad for residents, bad for the environment and bad for Wyre's net zero carbon commitments. This council should be raising the bar, not letting these polluters in. So will you commit to creating or calling for a brand new enterprise master plan that properly considers the health and well-being of residents and climate change commitment so that Wyre is able to live up to its own commitment of a cleaner, greener and more sustainable place?
Madam Mayor, the problem when you pre-plan your supplementary question is that you make a bit of a fool of yourself because you completely ignore the answer that you've got. Madam Mayor, to deal with these points, I've addressed quite clearly that the comparison between carbon emissions should be between landfill and the burning of waste. I've told him exactly what should happen and what he needs to do and what the Member of Parliament needs to do if he actually wants this to be called in and to do any good. It is not Wyre's enterprise zone, It is an enterprise zone in Wyre we have some involvement in, but we don't own the land and we are not the planning authority. So if you're in opposition, it's really easy to say we're going to call for this, but we're all currently suffering the consequences of what happens when you make unfunded, absolute fantasy claims when you're in opposition and then you get into power. Life doesn't actually work like that.
Thank you. That concludes councillor questions on notice. We will now move on to the next item, which is executive reports. A polite reminder that each speaker has 3 minutes only, and there will be 10 allocated for questions and comments for each executive report. Please clearly indicate by raising your hand if you wish to speak. Please also know that I may refuse supplementary questions in order to ensure that as many different members as possible are able to speak, and I'll ask a question and a comment within the 10 minutes allocated. The first report of the leader is the report of the leader of the council. Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I wish to give an update on the PFOA investigation at Hill House, just so that it's a matter of public record and it's recorded for the tape and so everybody knows exactly what's happening. Phase 1 has now been completed. Phase 1 has confirmed that there are levels of PFOA as we suspected, that are higher than there should be. That in itself is not rise to give a declaration or serve notice of contaminated land. That triggers phase 2 of the investigation, and that will begin in the new year. We don't know exactly when yet, they're still in the planning phase, and that will involve scientists from the Environment Agency undertaking detailed scientific testing of the land to assess in very complicated ways that way above my understanding, the levels of PFOA in the land and the ground and the various parts that are affected. Once that's been done, it then goes to the scientists at the UK Health Security Agency, who take all of that data and assess whether or not their advice to us is that it poses a threat to health and safety. That process will take time. When we get information, we will share it with the public. But it's not helping anybody, for there to be any suggestion from anybody that there is information that we have that we aren't sharing. That is it. That is the present position. That is all there is to know. Madam Mayor, we've taken on board some of the feedback about regular updates. I struggle to think what we're going to tell people monthly with regards to the investigation, because it's going to be very long and very slow and things will happen in quick succession. But I've spoken to the Chief Executive today and we are going to set up a sort of monthly newsletter by email. We're going to put updates up in places like the YMCA and the doctor's surgeries, etc., to update people as best as we can. But people shouldn't be concerned or suggest there's a cover-up or anything else if the updates are not comprehensive in January and February and perhaps even March. We will tell people what we know, as we have done throughout, as soon as we know it. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Swatton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Vincent, it's a good thing you brought up about alerting people to any developments, because as Borough councillors we've received none. I specifically asked at the last full council to be alerted when the letter was being sent out to residents and when the website was being updated. I understand there was some confusion with Councillor Berry, so I'm not suggesting that there's anything untowards there. But it was cleared up with officers, and yet we had to find out from members of public that it had gone ahead. We've also not been given any updates about what Wyre's been doing in regards to working with the Environment Agency on this. We've not been included in any meetings or been given any special correspondence about this, and I'm just wondering why are Borough councillors who, you know, it's in our ward that this issue is happening, why we've been left out in the lurch, and I'm wondering how we might be able to be included in this. Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, it would be very public with everybody, and that includes the Bourne councillors. It's not as simple, Councillor Swatton, as to say this is just in Bourne ward, though. It's affecting large areas, so we couldn't give the Bourne councillors special treatment without giving special treatment to everybody else, and that just becomes unwieldy. I'll speak to the Chief Executive, and when there are material updates to give, we can perhaps give information to councillors sooner than the public, but that will probably just delay giving information to the public, which my understanding is not what people want. So there's only so much we can do, and we want to get the information out to the public as quickly as we can. So the information's public, so it's available to everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Rimmer.
Yeah, for the last couple of meetings we've talked about the areas that were being tested, and I believe from your report then you said that the Environment Agency are testing land in various areas. Does that mean that we're already broadening the areas where we're doing testing, or it's the same test sites that we've done previously?
It will definitely and probably involve residential land for the first time and not just public land. They haven't mapped it yet, is my understanding. They haven't agreed the sites. I'm happy as soon as we get the information about where will be tested to share that, and we'll make that public.
Councillor Rushforth.
Just to follow on there from Councillor Rimmer, as I recall in the last council meeting, Councillor Rimmer requested that the testing of soil be extended to over Wyre, because obviously the contaminants are air dispersed. They are not one way, they are always. However, there are more threats to our environment than just the forever chemicals. From the very beginning of my political career, all of about 2 years ago, as I was knocking on the door stage, which I believe is termed campaigning, members of the public repeatedly reported to me tales of ICI, hence I'm bringing this up now, dumping unidentified waste onto land surrounding Baubles Farm in Preesall and into disused gravel pits, some of which are now run as fishing lakes. Obviously, at this point, these tales were just tales. It has now been evidenced that in relatively recent history, ICI either owned, leased, or had access to the land associated around Baubles Farm and indeed further afield. There is also written communication now that's come to light from Wyre Borough Council stating that there is unknown infill into a gravel pit on that land. It seems that there is actually no smoke without possibly some fire. I ask that that specific area be brought to the attention of the relevant bodies for further investigation in the future.
I don't know anything about this, Councillor Rushforth, to be honest. Certainly, we'll take it on board. I'll discuss it with the officers and we'll contact you about it. Councillor Berry suggested that perhaps it's something historic that we do know about, but it's not something that I have any personal experience of. So, in terms of widening the sites, as I've said previously,
Residential.
it will be to residential, but the Environment Agency are the ones who are doing that. So our role with this is we sort of declared that we're doing an investigation. We don't do any of the actual investigating at all. It's the Environment Agency and the UK Health Security Agency, and then it will come back to us to make the declaration or not. So that planning is done by other people.
I'd just like it noted.
They will plan it based on where the evidence takes them. The river will not stop them if that's what's necessary.
Thank you.
Councillor Higginson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Questions have already been asked, but one thing that might be helpful, and I don't know whether Councillor Vincent would, but an officer called Johnson who actually is the chap that specialises in land contamination. Now, I know constitutionally you can't have all officers from every single department in attendance, but I can't emphasise enough, like some of my colleagues across all parties, just how serious it is. And I agree with you, it's not just about Bourne Ward, but contamination does spread, so we should all be concerned about this. And I was wondering whether there may be constitutionally the opportunity to invite, whilst we're dealing with this investigation and investigations that will follow, whether we could have perhaps Mr. Johnson's counsel here in this chamber so that we may get some advice from him as to how the information that comes through is interpreted. After all, he is a specialist, and I think it would be beneficial to us all, would it not? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So I don't think that would be appropriate for full council, but we're happy to arrange a pre-council briefing session and have David Johnson come along and answer any questions.
Thank you.
Councillor Wells.
I'll keep it brief. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a follow-on from Councillor Rushworth's question around if residents, I've received quite a bit of information about potential testing sites from people that have lived in the area for a long time and also worked around ICI and believe they've got local intelligence that could support the Environment Agency in terms of their evidence. Is there a way that we as councillors can pass that information through to the council officers so that it can then reach the Environment Agency? Obviously they can then discern if that's relevant or not for testing, but it would be useful for us to have a conduit for passing that information. Thank you.
If you use the multi-agency email address, that will get to the relevant people. It sort of comes into the marketing lady, external marketing lady, and she then distributes it, to my understanding anyway, to the various agencies. So if there's information for them or there's information for health security, that's where it will end up.
Thank you. Councillor Kay.
I would like to thank Wyre and the officers for all the information that we have been given, and it was opened out that you could attend any meetings. I filled in all my Facebook pages for all the wards in my area, so residents do ask me on a regular basis and I do update. That includes Bourne, Cleveland Park, Pheasantwood area. So the information's there. The lady at the back here, you can email her on that number or speak to her, and she is very prompt and gives you all the advice. So I'd like to say thank you to Wyre.
Thanks, Councillor Kate. This is new to us. We've not had to deal with something like this before, and it's not good, it's not fun for anybody, and we'd rather not be doing it at all. But the officers are doing, in my view, a very good job, and we're learning as we go. That's why the email updates will come out, that's why the further updates will come out. We're doing what we can to update people. People will still say they're not updated enough, but we're doing our best.
Thank you. Councillor Minto.
I don't need a microphone, thank you. Okay, well, it's not working. It is working now. So, she used the scaremongering word, dumping. When you're talking about a company like ICI, whose health and safety was very, very good, they will not have done any willy-nilly dumping by any means. And it all comes under the umbrella now of COSH. What's COSH?
I would just say, Councillor Minto, that I would test ICI being reputable in terms of...
I don't think this is an appropriate... Is there a question in there, Councillor Minto?
There is.
Thank you.
There is. Yeah, okay. So my point is that ICI, during their tenure on that site, they did indeed put chemicals under the ground, but they put them into the unused brine mines, and that is where they are, and they have been sealed up now for 50 years. So that's the answer. And if you really want the answers from ICI, the head of HSC...
Councillor, just to ask and just to point out, unless we know these things as fact, then I think it's not appropriate to bring them up.
It is fact. The head of ICI's HSE, Mr. Charles Tracy, would, if he was invited, I'm sure he would share his experiences thereof. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minto. That concludes the consideration of the Leader's report. We will now move on to the report of the Resources Portfolio Holder. Councillor McKay, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in addition to my report, I'm sure we all know where Christmas is around the corner. We've all got Christmas events going on in our areas. I'm really pleased that Wyre councillors continue to support the Christmas events like the light switch on. So just to encourage members to go along and support these events like Wyre Council has. Happy to take any questions on my report.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor McKay? So that concludes the consideration of the Resources Portfolios Holders Report. We will now move on to the report of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holder. I Absence of councillor Bridge. Who's doing it? Oh, is it? Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Cartridge.
I'd just like to say a huge thank you to Cathy Winstanley. We've had a few issues down on Appletree Close in St Michael's, and every single time I've got in contact with her, she has got back to me so speedily. She's so efficient. I can't sing her praises any higher than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Belshaw.
Hello, Councillor Vincent. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for all your help with the festive lights. That's on his bit that you missed before. So I'd just like to thank you publicly for all the help on sorting out the lantern parade and the festive lights switch on for us. Without Michael helping us, I don't think we'd have got to it this Saturday. So thank you very much. Anyway, back to your question, Councillor Bridge. Paragraph 3.1 states that Wise gave notice they were unable to fulfil their obligations under the agreement. Firstly, hasn't it been obvious for some time that they are incapable of fulfilling their obligations? And secondly, why are councillors only now being alerted to Wise's staffing and recruitment challenges, as the report puts it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be nice, Councillor Belshaw, because it's you. I think that there's a difference between what perhaps people's perception about Wise should have been doing in their view versus what their contractual obligations were. So to say sort of it was obvious that they weren't meeting their targets, that's one thing, but their contractual obligations are often quite another. So it's not as clear cut as the question suggests. Why are you being alerted to it now? Well, because the contract has now ended and we are now in the market for a replacement. That's why it's been brought to full council now. I can't really say any more than that. It wasn't brought to my attention that long ago, put it that way. So it's not that it's been kept from people, it's just happened reasonably quickly.
Thank you. Councillor Fayle.
Thank you. In October 2023, Wise's performance for period July to September 2023 was reported to Council over 1,200 hours of patrols, roughly 3 full-time equivalents. In April this year, he reported 1,700 hours of patrols for the period of October 2023 to March 2024. 2 months ago in September, he reported 464 hours of patrols, just over 1 full-time equivalent. For period January to March 2024. Given the overlap in reporting, it appears the figures given September were actually for April to June. Irrespective of that, it seems that the staffing issues have been present for some time. Shouldn't this council have been alerted to this at the earliest opportunity and not after the event? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not aware of any errors with the reporting, and it's been brought to you now, and Wise are gone. I mean, that's all there is to say about it. I don't propose to dwell on it.
Thank you. Councillor Fayle.
Yeah, I think the point was that those figures show that actually a year ago there were roughly 3 full-time equivalents working on it, and certainly 6-9 months ago, maybe even a bit longer ago, there was possibly only 1 person working on it. So it should have been evident for some time. But anyway, it really is unclear to me why we've got a recruitment problem. You'd think at this time of the year you'd be able to find 3 wise men.
Come on, Michael.
You want to laugh, don't you? I know you want to laugh.
Somebody tickle him.
Anyway, seriously though, isn't this disastrous trial with outsourcing reason to bring this service back in-house? We take no pleasure saying we told you so, but the Wyre Labour Group has said all along it wasn't wise to outsource.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and absolutely unequivocally no. So to suggest that councils don't have recruitment problems compared to private enterprises, just got no grounding in reality, unfortunately, Councillor Fail. The problems that they face in recruiting, and we would face even more so. It's a job that people don't particularly want to do. It's hard, recruitment, retention, training, it's all very difficult, and recruitment and retention is something that we struggle with anyway. Prior to us outsourcing it wasn't an area that we could easily find staff in. One of the reasons why we did outsource it was because it was a headache, and someone was offering to take that headache from us. So we will be looking to try and find a replacement outsourced provider who can provide a similar service to Wise, because while I know the Labour group weren't too happy with it, it worked until the end.
Thank you. That concludes the consideration of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders Report. We will now move on to the report of the Planning, Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Report. Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce your report?
I will. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for introduce the report, Wyre Business Awards took place on the 12th of November at the Marine Hall. I'd just like to thank the team who put it together. It was an absolutely fantastic night. It was really good. It looked amazing inside. Marine Hall did a fantastic job, so I was really pleased with them as well. And just a big congratulations to all the Business Award winners on the night. It was a very good night, and I had a couple of glasses of wine, which made it even nicer, so that was good. Thank you. Reports in front of members. Quite happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Councillor Blair? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I just want to say how pleased I am that the council listened to mine and the traders' concerns regarding the low occupancy rate at Fleetwood Market and the rate at which traders were leaving, especially when you think back to this time last year when Councillor Vincent labelled me shameful for scaremongering over concerns I raised. But thankfully, the officers listened, and a week later, after that meeting, a plan was put in place to temporarily reduce the rent over the then coming winter months. And as I've stated many times, I believed the best way forward to keep the existing traders and to encourage new stall holders was to reduce rents, and I'm happy to see that a package which includes a specific rent reduction together with other initiatives to improve footfall is now in place, and the stats from June to the 5th of November show the occupancy level has increased from 76% to 82%. However, is that increase going to continue, or are we going to have a sudden downturn due to the recent issues with the heating? The main hall was showing temperatures of just 9 degrees during the recent cold snap. I appreciate the heating issues have been addressed from that previous outage, but is this going to happen winter after winter? But just as worrying is the leaking roof. That issue, I have been informed, will be sorted this week. But what assurances can the traders have that this too won't be a regular occurrence every time we have heavy rain, as we are experiencing extreme weather conditions more and more often? Up to press, there were no reports of any stock being damaged, but obviously if this were to happen again, would that remain? Can I also just add, into regard to the heating malfunction, could I suggest the possibility of having some form of maintenance contract for the heating system? Obviously, we ourselves in our own homes sometimes look to plans with companies to maintain and service our boilers, etc. That Market's heating is all new, singing and dancing and extremely high tech, and I would presume needs very skilled engineers to look after it. And having a maintenance contract would allow issues to be identified and rectified quicker, prevent a repeat of last week's where traders and visitors were left in the cold again. And lastly, you may well be aware of a serious incident that occurred overnight whereby the unit housing the heating controls was broken into. This unit is situated outside between the indoor and outdoor markets. It was previously thought that it would be sited in the old market office upstairs, so whether there is a reason for it to be outside, obviously I'm no engineer so I have no idea. But due to the actions of the intruders, pipework has been damaged. The heating is back on in 2 halls, but there remains no heating in the main hall as a result. Untold damage could be caused if they gained entry again and removed some of the vast amount of copper pipes and auxiliary parts that are housed in that unit. I know workmen have been there sorting the doors out this afternoon, but is this going to be secured like Fort Knox now? It really needs to be. Other than that, or moved inside, I don't even know if that could be, you know, facilitated. Obviously, we don't want to next time, hopefully there isn't, but it could cost a lot more than it has done on this occasion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Marino, would you please respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. What was the first question again? Yeah, lots of questions. I'll try and cover all the ones that you came across. I have to say, the first question regarding putting something in place, that was always my intention, right from when you first brought it up. It was, you know, it was on the cards to do something because we knew it wasn't sustainable going forward, which is great. So we will monitor it going forward. How long it's going to go up to, we'll just keep monitoring and see where it goes. The whole point is to get some more footfall in there, get some more stalls in there, make sure it's as good as it possibly can be. Regarding the heating, so I'll do it all into as much as possible. Yes, the heating's working now. Yeah, it broke down the other day, which was unfortunate. It was back on working properly again until the break-in last night. So today there'd been no heating initially. The engineers came out, fixed it as much as possible. It was in the two halls, as you said, but still not up to scratch. They are back again this week, back in tomorrow and this, tomorrow and then early next week, I would imagine. Roof, I don't know. I didn't know it was actually got a leak in it. So yeah, that'd be good. But I'll speak to Marianne. She's probably on top of that already, and I'll speak to Julian as well. Maintenance contract. I would imagine still something in place because it's new. So I would imagine going forwards that there's still something in place that's got to be there for at least 2 or 3 or 5 years. I don't know, but I can find out and let you know on that as well. That's fine. And the break-in, yeah, I've already covered that. That's fine. Does that cover? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blair. Councillor Birch, sorry.
Shorter. In Poulton, the potential loss of the main post office is of great concern to residents, especially since the loss of all the banks. For our elderly residents, those who don't have access to the internet, and also our local businesses, please could you tell me what has been currently done to help the situation?
Councillor Marinel, could you please respond?
Yeah, thank you, Madam. Thank you for the question. It's a Crown Post Office, so it's fully serviced, and it's really important to the members of Poulton and wider Carlton as well. So it is a massive thing. You know, it's in talks to go. As are the other 115 or 16 that are around the country. So it's really important that that this stays exactly where it is at the moment and doesn't go anywhere else. The banks have all gone, of course, so that makes a big difference. It makes the post office even more important than ever before. I know Poulton councillors have been liaising with Andrew Snowden about this as well, which is good. They had a meeting last week outside the post office, giving leaflets out. I think Radio Lancashire came along as well, which was good. There's a petition going which has got 2,900 signatures at the moment. Most of them came in the first week, which was great. Andrew chaired a cross-party meeting with Labour, Lib Dems and Conservatives this week, which is good. He's asked 2 questions in the House about it already, which again is fantastic. He's also written to the CEO of the Post Office and Labour's Business Secretary as well. I've got the letter here, so I'd like to quickly just read that out if that's okay, Madam Mayor. I'm writing to express my deep concern regarding the proposed closure of the Poulton-le-Fylde Post Office in Poulton-le-Fylde. This post office is an essential service, particularly for many older residents who depend on it for their daily needs. For countless individuals, it is not just a convenience, it's a necessity. The closure of the Poulton-le-Fylde Post Office would create significant challenges for residents, disrupt the town centre and have a detrimental impact on local businesses. In less than 24 hours, we have already gathered 1,700 signatures, this is a few days ago, on our petition to save the post office, which has been at the heart of our community for years. I strongly urge you and the government to reconsider this decision. I would also like to extend an invitation for you to visit Poulton-le-Fylde so you can witness firsthand how crucial the Poulton-le-Fylde Post Office is to our community. Keeping it open is not just about convenience, it's about meeting the needs of everyone in Poulton. Thank you for your attention in the matter. I look forward to hearing a quick response. So I'm really pleased that Andrew's on top of it as well, as are the other councillors. I'm sure the Carlton councillors are concerned about this as well. We need to just stay on top of it and put as much pressure on the government as possible and on the CEO of the post office itself. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marinell. Councillor Rushworth.
Thank you, Councillor Rimmer. Taking it back to the ground again, to the soil, can you possibly just give a little bit more information on the organic horticultural scheme that's been provided through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund there?
Thank you, Councillor Marinell.
Where does this...
Oh, am I on the wrong person, perhaps? No, it's you. Number 2.2.
Yeah, it's not...
Is that not you?
No.
Is it another one?
Yeah, 2.2 is about the REPF, about 2 projects. No, sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it?
That's it. Yeah, it's 2. It's there. No, it's 2.2. Underneath REPF.
Yeah.
Then you have another line of 2 down, and there it is.
Is it Cotton Hall? I don't know. I don't know. I know the other one because I've just been speaking to them, but I'll find out for you and get back to you if that's okay.
It just sort of looks a bit large,
Okay.
but on a small scale.
That's right. Don't worry.
I was just interested in that one.
I'll happily get back to you and give you a written answer. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the consideration of the Planning, Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holders Report. We will now move on to the report of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holder. Councillor Berry, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's before members. I'll do my best to reply to any questions.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Berry? Councillor Swatton.
Thank you very much. It's all right, Councillor Berry, you can relax this time. I'm going to start with a compliment for you. I was walking down Fleetwood Beach and down the ramp there where the old pier site used to be, I noticed a sign just today talking about whether there was any sewage spill in the water and whether it was safe to swim. And thankfully it said no. I'm pleased to see something like that going up. We've not got enough of it around the area. So my question is, can we get more? That is the only one I've seen down the entire length of the swimming area for the beach. Ideally, I'd want 5. I think at least 3 is reasonable, especially one that's forward facing towards the beach, as this one can be quite out of sight if you're coming off the beachfront itself. So I'm just wondering if we can possibly get some more of that signage down the way. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the area that's covered by the scheme that you're talking about, the electronic sign, is the one. It's not electronic, it's a paper one. It's a paper one. It's a plastic folder thing. I can't say that, honestly say that I know why that was put up. I can't honestly answer to that one, to be quite honest, so it's not fair for me to make a comment on it. We do have electronic signs which are at Fleetwood where the bathing area is, which is basically in front of the Marine Hall garden space, and the other one is at Cleveley's. These are provided, they give information given by the Environment Agency. We do want to get some more signs from them, and one of the things that we want to do is to sort of join with United Utilities in getting some signage so we can give more up-to-date information about the quality of water. But this is something that's coming down the line, and we've still got this sort of, not argument, but different information coming out of UU and the EA as to spills and all this sort of thing. But it's something that we're watching. But yes, signage is something that we're really into and want to expand on.
Councillor Cartridge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 4.1 and 4.2, I'm really pleased to see this. You know, you look at Wyre compared to other authorities, I'm sure all members can agree we really are blessed with lots of car parking spaces. You go to so many districts, so many market towns now, and you don't have that free parking, and Wyre does provide a lot of free parking, and I think that's so important for, you know, the local economy. places such as Garstang, Great Eccleston, Cleveland. So I'd just like to record my thanks on this, because I think it's so important helping businesses at a crucial time in their economic year.
Thank you for that comment. I mean, we've always considered that car parking and supporting the local economy went hand together. We do, when we think about how we charge and the facilities we provide, we very much want to support the local community and support local businesses and encourage people to shop in our local centres, which are brilliant social centres. We don't want them to drift into other areas. So this is why we have very attractive sort of parking charges and very attractive residents parking scheme, which allows residents to park for 3 hours every day. And we back this up with free parking at Christmas and other periods of the year. So yes, it's very, very much part of our strategy to support the local economy.
Thank you. That concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. We will now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holder. Councillor Bowen, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's only one thing I've got to add to the report, and that's that the Poulton Cemetery got the Gold Award for Britain in Bloom again this year, and that's the second year running, so that's a fantastic thing to do. Also, I can't remember what I was going to say now. But if anybody hasn't been to that little cemetery, they should go. I know it sounds funny saying this is a cemetery, but it is such a fantastic little cemetery. It's absolutely beautiful. Anyway, my report's before you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Councillor Bowen? Councillor Rimmer.
Two short questions. On paragraph 3.3, you talk about the work of the commercial safety officers with the shellfish beds, which is really interesting. I know that there were recent closures of the mussel beds in Knott End for all but licensed fishing people due to food safety concerns, and I wondered if there's any reports on why the causes of closures happen by Wyre or anyone else, and follow up. And my second small question is paragraph 4.2 on the Fylde and Wyre Health and Wellbeing Partnership on potential funding. It's for areas in Wyre where residents make the most number of calls to adult social care and help supporting the reasons behind these calls. I wonder if you had more information on what those areas were and the reasons. You know, is it like where there's more elderly or poverty indicators? Thank you.
Yeah, answering that question first, I'll have to get more information to exactly who would kind of, I think it's the elderly actually, because it's in the rural areas. And the other question about the cockles was because they closed it because they found that the cockles that were being harvested were too small, and they wanted to shut it down to give them a chance to
I know that one's in Pilling, but just it was in Knott End previously on the mussel beds, and that was, I think, E. coli. You had a notice up and the officers were there. But it's not like specifically on that, but if you know of any follow-up that happens on these cases or where we can find information, if you could email it, that would be great.
Yeah, when we get information about anything to do with environmental health, they tell me straight away and I get a full report from them, and I'll pass it on to you if I get anything like that.
Thank you. Councillor Higginson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with regards to the Marine Hall and the Pink Floydian show. This group are becoming a regular attraction at the Marine Hall. And I was in attendance on that evening, and it was a full house. And this band, they're always very complimentary about the Marine Hall when they play to the audience. And it's also good because it says on 5.2 about the bar takings, but I don't know if you're aware that there appears to be an ongoing problem with this, because before the gig started, the cafe bar was open and the marine bar was also open. And as I say, it was a full house. But during the interval, the cafe bar, that's how I call it anyway, correct me if I'm wrong to refer to it as such, was closed. And without any exaggeration, the queue from the Marine Hall bar was almost right up to the reception area. And people were quite frustrated about having to queue so long. Some of the drinks, of course, were prepaid, which is not unusual in a theatre environment. But I've seen this band a few times, and they are very good. But last year was exactly the same. I took the opportunity to speak to a couple of members of staff during the interval, and I got a similar answer to last year. This is why I'm a bit concerned. And it was that, oh, someone's let us down again. And one of those staff was actually a volunteer. Now, I'd like to offer my congratulations to those that did work so hard under very, very difficult circumstances. But there is a problem here. And although the bar takings were there, had the cafe bar also been open, the bar takings would have been probably double, because it is a full house. There is also another worrying thing about Pink Floyd, and they are a very good and popular attraction, as you will know. But they did say that next year they will be playing at the Opera House in Blackpool. Now, they don't normally say that. It's normally the same time each year during the autumn months. And I was quite saddened because the thing about this kind of music is, and the venue, it's a very intimate venue, and it works well with a band like Pink Floyd, and I can assure you. So it would be tragic if we lost this attraction. I don't know if it's anything to do with the problems that we're having, but there is definitely, as far as I can see, a staffing problem. So would you please look into this and perhaps report back? And would you also send our artist congratulations to those that did work so hard in what appeared to be very trying circumstances? Because there was a lot of frustration from some of the customers. And of course, if you've got dissatisfied customers,
Thank you, Councillor Higginson. Thank you.
They're going to tell other people. So
appreciate the question, and I'm sure Councillor Bowen will pass that on.
Yeah, thank you.
Well said. Hear, hear.
Councillor Wells.
Sent for the cavalry.
Yeah, I do know about the problems. They have been brought to my attention that you've mentioned. We have got a new manager, events manager starting. He started last Monday, and he's going to look into various ways that you can pay for drinks and order drinks before the interval. Although it was a big problem because there was a lot of people there, and we were short-staffed. I know it's no excuse, but that's what happened. But hopefully, this new manager is going to sort lots of things out that's been the problems in the past. And he's very enthusiastic, and I've got lots of hope for the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's just regarding item 4.3, where you refer to the networking meeting of Poulton and Carlton voluntary communities together, where you talk about community groups sharing their challenges and offers of collaborative help. Obviously in Thornton, where I'm a councillor, I've been working with the Gala Committee and also the Thornton Action Group who run the Thornton Lights. I'm sure you're aware, but there is a real lack of capacity in Thornton at the moment, lack of community involvement, and my understanding is that most of those groups are struggling to keep going, and we are actually seeing a reduction in the lights. I know there's other issues behind the lights in terms of the chap that used to put them up, but we have seen a big reduction in the presence of lights in Thornton this year. Now, I know that obviously most areas have got the community responsibility to make those things work, and we understand that, I think it would just be if there are networks out there that Thornton community groups could perhaps get a bit better plugged into, where there are offers of collaboration and support, that could be really helpful. So it would just be to ask if we could have a meeting or a chat about what we can do in Thornton just to try and improve the situation a little bit, because I know all the community groups are really struggling with capacity. I think it's a demographic issue. I think you've got a lot of families where you've got two parents working. People just don't have the time in the evenings or the energy once they've dealt with the kids to get out and do the stuff. But it's just understanding how we can make sure that the things that everybody loves, everybody's out on the gala, coming to watch it, you know, everybody wants the lights. I've seen Facebook posts already criticising the council for why we haven't got the lights that we used to have up. So I think it's just something we need to be aware of to help facilitate that going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a problem. It's a problem all over the borough as well. We are trying to help with the lights because we are increasing the funding, but that doesn't help the volunteer thing now. So all I can say is, you know, there's nothing I can do about that really, unless you have a meeting with one of the officers and try and find a way around it. That's the only thing I can suggest.
Of course you can. Thank you.
Thank you. We're reviewing what we do specifically with the Christmas lights in the new year, and we'll be contacting all the different committees, so maybe we can use that as an opportunity to maybe breathe some fresh life into them.
Thank you. I've got time for just one more question on this topic, and I think the next one was Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question's regarding 3.2 of the report, just about the pilling cockle fishery. So I know that it's closed again after an already prolonged period of closure, but I do understand the reasoning behind this. My question's just, will the monthly testing continue with a view to reopening again in the future, hopefully soon? Thank you.
Yeah, the sampling frequency is determined by the Food Standards Agency and Centre for Environment, Fisheries and Food, so that the cockle beds remain classified. A cockle bed that is not sampled could not be classified and would not be allowed to open and fished. It's a statutory function of the Environment Health Department to sample the shellfish beds, so they've got to inspect them, right? That's the law, you know, before they can allow any food to be for human consumption. The filling fisheries are classed as B, which is they can go for human consumption if they're processed properly and heated, and there's various things what they have to do, but they are for human consumption. So obviously when everything goes to according to plan, they'll be open again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies for those that didn't get to ask the questions. We are running into time with that. If you'd like to email your questions over, then I'm sure Councillor Bowen will respond with those. So that concludes the consideration of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make comments or ask questions on reports of their colleagues. Do any Cabinet members wish to do so? Councillor Bob.
I've got a question for the leader. There's many family farms in Wyre. The majority are passed down through the generations. Labour's tax on family farms may make this impossible for them to continue, thus jeopardising the production in Wyre of beef, lamb and other vital foods, not only for Wyre residents but for the nation. So will the leader please write to the government to ask them to reverse this policy that is placing farms and food security under threat?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will write to the government. I know lots of people before me have done so already. It's a very serious issue because food security is very important, and what we know about farmers is their capital costs are huge, their profit margins are very low, And just because they own land that's worth a lot of money on paper does not mean that they're going to be necessarily leaving a lot of cash to their families. And if they do leave cash to their families, that's not subject to the inheritance tax relief that they get the benefit from anyway, because it's attached to the land. The government say that they're bringing in this policy to try and stop people who sort of buy land and live on it and don't run it as a farm. There's a way you can legislate for that if you're a competent government that deals with those people and doesn't deal with working farms. So it's been rushed through. It's not a good policy. It's not the right policy for our food security, and I'm happy to write to the Minister.
Thank you. That concludes the consideration of the executive reports. We will now move on to agenda item 8, mid-year Treasury Management Report. Councillor McKay, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to propose the report and put forward the recommendations at 3.1 and 3.2. Happy to take any questions.
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Are there any questions? Councillor Fayle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In November 2023, the Labour councillors abstained in the vote on this item. It did so after concerns were raised about the ethical investments in Qatar. Where are we with this in terms of an ethical investment strategy? Is one being created to look at this? Because I noticed that we're still investing in Qatari banks.
Thank you. Councillor McKay, could you please respond?
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor Fell. Yeah, I think councillors have raised this with Claire, and it is a matter to be raised at ONS. If you want to look into that, we are happy to run that. As a formal group, you can raise it and take it further, but at the moment we're following guidelines, and it is within those guidelines.
Councillor Vincent?
The issue remains the same as the other times it's been raised, because it's a legitimate concern that we want to make sure the council's money is invested ethically. I understand that. When you invest in banks, etc., you have Moody's, you have ratings agencies, you have some sort of way of working out whether your money is safe. You don't have the same for ethics. For example, 6 months ago, the Labour group might have been happy to invest in the US. Probably not now. Who knows? So whose moral compass do you use, and what do you decide is morally right and morally not? We have a proportion of our money in Qatar. Some may like that, some may not like that. It's a spread, diverse portfolio. I think that's the right approach. I'm sure Councillor Cartridge will have a discussion about it at overview and scrutiny, which is the appropriate place for it if somebody wants to put that on the agenda. But the difficulty is, how do you possibly legislate for the morality of a bank?
Councillor Rimmer.
Only to add that I think that's the point of a policy, that you did make a decision on what your guiding principles are when you go with it. So I'd quite be happy if it went on an agenda to discuss.
Now, sorry, this has been raised now, like you say, a year ago. It keeps coming back, and every time this report comes on my thing, I know it's going to raise issues. So Councillor Cartridge, I think probably we do need to get it at ONS, and I'm happy to attend that.
Councillor Cartridge.
Yeah, I'm very happy for it to be on the ONS agenda. The only thing I will say is, when it comes to economics and money, it's very hard to trace it. So that's another challenge which we'll find. You know, we live in a very mobile society where finance is concerned.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. Would members please now vote on the recommendations? All those in favour, please show. Those against? Any abstentions? The recommendations are approved. The next item is item 9. Housing Benefit War Pension Disregard Policy Modified Scheme. Councillor McKay, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Yeah, the report's before members. I'm fully behind the report and I propose the recommendation at 3.1.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments or amendments? Would members please now vote on the recommendation? All those in favour please show. That's unanimous. The recommendation is approved. The next item is item 10, Council Plan 2024 to 2028 Annual Refresh. Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to propose the refreshed council plan. Obviously, we did a major overhaul of it last year following the election and the way we did it. A lot of work went into it. This year, we've updated some of the measures, some of the goals, and it just sort of rejigs a little bit what we're aiming to do, having ticked some things off and updated a few things as well. So it is only a refresh rather than a complete review, so I'm happy to take any questions and propose the plan.
Is there a seconder for the proposal? Thank you, Councillor Berry. Are there any comments, questions or amendments? Councillor Fayle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The improvements made to the plan following its consideration by overview and scrutiny are welcomed. Previously, I've said that having an immediate plan for the next 4 years is fine, but we also need a plan for the next 10, 20 and even 50 years. The current plan before us has some loose commitments for the next 10 years, but given the issues faced, these commitments don't go far enough. This council and its pre-1974 predecessors got themselves into the current situation over many decades, and some of the things that need rectifying could take decades to thoroughly tackle. The acknowledged shortfall of public open space is an obvious example of where there needs to be a long-term commitment to resolving the matter. Without that commitment, as part of a framework to move Wyre forward, we already know the outcome. That outcome is a Conservative council continuing to approve large housing developments without providing the additional public open space required to address the deficit, and ultimately having no means to rectify the shortfall other than by demolition. It simply isn't good enough. There needs to be a specific commitment to address this problem. But what you don't do, and this council is doing that every year that goes by, you don't remove the very land that could be used to rectify the shortfalls. There's a commitment in the draft plan to provide opportunities for people to lead healthy and active lives, and part of that surely requires delivery of the required public open space. Disappointingly, despite mentioning this for the last 10 years, nothing has been done. There is no will from the ruling group to tackle the issue. There are some longer-term commitments in the plan, but they would benefit from being more specific. And there are also some medium to long-term commitments that aren't there. Specific matters that should be being addressed, but for the most part are being swept under the carpet. There are millions in this country who are struggling through life. But it shouldn't be like that, and it doesn't have to be that way. We can and we should do far more than we are doing. Councillor Le Marinel's report highlighted the good work of the Labour government to upgrade 5 million homes, and I'm sure Wyre officers will be doing all they can to ensure that as many Wyre residents as possible benefit from those energy performance upgrades. With 28% of Wyre's homes below the minimum standard and 68% of Wyre homes not meeting energy efficiency standards, there's a lot more work to do. So it's essential that where housing is concerned, we put in place longer-term commitments. And of course, this council should be driving standards up, but at times, demonstrably, doing the opposite. By passing applications for HMOs when it has good reason not to, this council is driving standards down. There's a commitment to support people to help themselves and live independently in their own homes. I don't call sharing a kitchen and a bathroom with 10 other people as living independently. By approving such substandard accommodation, this council sets a very low bar. What's in the plan is not particularly wrong. The problem is, as I may have mentioned before, is what's not in the plan. We need a plan to deliver better outcomes for this and future generations. Where is the ambition to improve living conditions? Where is the ambition to tackle inequality and deprivation? Where is the ambition to improve people's lives? Maybe I'm expecting too much. Perhaps at the moment the ambition should be to have ambition. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent, please could you respond to the current debate?
Is he aware that his government has just demanded that we build 6,000 houses in Wyre and take 3,000 to 6,000 of Blackpools if we're lucky? Where is this green open space going to go amongst all of the houses Labour are forcing us to build? It's all well and good saying, Rob, we should protect green open space. We will protect the green open spaces that we are legally allowed to. That won't be very much if the government have their way. In fact, it will be nothing. They don't seem to care at all. You can build on greenbelt land now as long as you build social houses. So what you say and what your government say, Rob, are totally different, I'm afraid. The plan is ambitious. We do have ambitions to improve people's lives. What we do, though, is look year on year at the ways that we can do that in achievable ways. And over the 12 to however long it is periods, 12 months, 2 years, etc., we make small improvements, and over time they build up and people's lives become better. What I don't want to do is put in something grand that says we will improve people's lives, because it's totally meaningless and you're going to say how you do it. It's just like Starmer's new pledge that he's going to completely get to net zero, is it, by tomorrow, but he's not going to say how, and he's not, but don't worry, it's not going to impact your life. It's rubbish. It's nonsense. I won't make nonsensical, unachievable, outlandish claims, because the people deserve better.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. Would members please vote on the recommendation? All those in favour, please show. Those against? Any abstentions? The recommendation is approved. Next item is item 11, appointments to committees. Councillors, please note that this report was published as a supplement to the original agenda. Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendations?
I will, Madam Mayor, and I'm proposing an amendment, I believe I have to, which will be that Councillor Minto will be replacing Councillor Baxter on the Climate Change Subcommittee. So that's my one amendment, but then I'll propose all of that. So I don't know what we have to do voting-wise.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the proposal? Are there any comments, questions or amendments? Councillor Rushworth.
Thank you. It's Councillor Rimmer that is coming off the Councillor Development Committee, not me.
So I'm just going now, am I just going to that?
Would members please vote on the recommendations? All those in favour, please show. The recommendation is approved. The next item is item 12, periodic report. Lead member for Armed Forces. Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce your report?
I will. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Reports for members. Quite happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Lady Atkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Wyre to setting up the various breakfast organisations around the borough. In Garstang now, we've got about 160 members. And also they're getting welfare officers in to help the various people. And it's a wonderful thing seeing all these guys and women at these veteran breakfasts. They're talking about their experiences, and I find it personally fascinating. They've got about over 77 going to the Christmas lunch in December, and they go off to various places as well, that it really is excellent, and I'd just like to say to everybody...
Damn
who's
good
all
breakfast too.
Yeah. Say thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Marinell.
Thank you for that. The Goal ceremony is particularly well attended. I think it's probably the biggest in Wyre, I would imagine. But what I find amazing is all the ones that are going on. There must be about 15, I think, different groups going on at the moment. Lots of breakfast clubs happening. There's some CICs involved as well. I know Fleetwood have a number over there that do some absolutely fantastic work. Veterans do need that help and support, and I think it's really important that as a council we give them as much as possible, and we help the groups as much as possible as well, because it's really important. I'd just like to just touch on the Gold Award. We are working towards that this year, and hopefully next January, where's Joe? Yes, that we will be putting in for the Gold Award early next year, so that'd be really good as well. But I would just like to thank all the groups within Wyre that do such fantastic work for the veterans as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The report is noted. The next item is item 13, notices of motion. We have 2 notices of motion this evening that will be dealt with in the order that they were received. The first notice of motion has been submitted by Councillors Vincent, Berry, Bowen and Marinell, which is set out in full at page 83 of your agendas. Councillor Vincent, would you please propose the motion? You have a maximum of 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, as you and members may be aware, it's understood that 6 Labour MPs who have so far sought to remain anonymous have written to the Secretary of State to ask for the Lancashire County Council elections in May 2025 to be cancelled. They ask that this council and the other 11 districts in Lancashire be abolished, with the county and the unitary councils be formed. It is not clear whether those MPs agree with their colleague, the MP for Burnley and Briarfield, Oliver Ryan, who believes that the county's council should be replaced with 3 unitary authorities. The leaders of Chorley and South Ribble Council wish to make a unitary authority with West Lancashire, who themselves would prefer to be part of the Liverpool City region. It is assumed that Preston would be a unitary on its own in their plans. If their plans are accepted, there would be at least 4 unitary authorities in Lancashire. Rachel Reeve's disastrous socialist budget of betrayal confirmed that the government intends to make cuts to the budgets for local government and redistribute funding from what they see as wealthy councils to those they see as poor. I expect that to mean they will be taking from well-run Conservative councils and giving to the shambolic debt-ridden messes run by her Labour colleagues. I am dialing into a call with Jim McMahon MP tomorrow to hear about the government's policy for setting the council's budget, and will report back to members in January. However, it is clear that this government wishes to save money in the long term, and they are to reintroduce a new round of austerity to local government, despite promising they would not do so prior to the election. In 2020, PricewaterhouseCoopers published a report that proves that single county-wide unitary authorities could save £2.49 billion over 5 years nationally, and that savings of around £1.5 billion nationally could be achieved if they were split into 2 authorities. But that is not what is proposed for Lancashire. PwC confirmed that the Labour model of at least 3 unitaries would see the country suffer a net loss of £340 million. I can only assume that the Chorley model will cost far more. So, Madam Mayor, what is being proposed by Labour will cost the country money. Budgets are being cut, and so there will already be less money available, and yet we are told that this is in the best interest of the people of Wyre and Lancashire. Economies of scale and the lack of competition help the County Council run a good adult social care service. Reducing the size of this service to at least 3 smaller unitaries will be harmful to the people of Wyre. Recruiting staff for adult social care in rural areas is challenging. This means Wyre is particularly exposed to the damage Labour's plans will do to adult social care. SEND provision is stretched at best, and with children with special educational needs seeing their special schools closed because of Labour's education tax, the demand for these services will only increase as families turn away from private school, to the detriment of all concerned and the benefit of no one. Madam Mayor, Labour's plans to destroy Wyre make no sense and are harmful to the borough and its residents. The Labour manifesto was silent on this, and they have no mandate to do it. That is why we must let the people of Wyre decide if they wish us to remain a sovereign council ranked the 17th best in the country and the best in the north of England, or if they want us to form part of Greater Blackpool. My views are clear, and I am confident that people will agree with me. If Labour push ahead with these plans, we must ask the people of Wyre what they want, and that is why we must resolve to hold a referendum on the matter, and I'm happy to propose the motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Berry, I understand you're going to second the motion.
I am worshipful Mayor, and I'd like to reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Would any members who wish to speak for or against the motion or to propose an amendment please indicate? You'll have up to 5 minutes each.
Do you want another guess?
Well, I'm at a loss where to start with this. There is no white paper before us that outlines a number of potential local government reorganisations. So it's unclear how one could either support or oppose something that may or may not come forward as an option. And it wasn't too long ago that Wyre's previous leader unilaterally wrote to government putting forward his and Wyre Council's weight behind a single combined authority, including, wait for it, 3 unitary authorities. So why the current leader and other cabinet members are now opposed to any local government reorganisation is inconsistent with previous actions. This inconsistency is perhaps not as surprising as it sounds. Could it be that there is an ulterior motive? A reorganisation is likely to mean Wyre Conservatives won't be able to continue monopolising positions of power. Thank you.
Councillor Vivian, would you
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If he does his maths on what the unitary looks like, I wouldn't get too cocky. Madam Mayor, if you read Jim McMahon's letter, there's 15 pages of it. It makes very clear that they want to do this. So you should do your reading, Councillor Fale, before you try and hide behind the white paper. This will be in the white paper. Those of us in positions of authority have already been told this. So we can't just say there's nothing to vote on. And, Madam Mayor, what position Councillor Henderson took several years ago is not in any way binding on me or on this council or on our members. So whatever he did 4 years ago or whenever it was is not relevant to what's before us today. He wants to talk about people doing this for political reasons. Labour think that ripping up the map will put them in power in Lancashire for the rest of all of our lives. That is the only reason they want to do it. The evidence, PwC's evidence confirms this will not save money, it will cost money, and it will definitely lead to worse services that already struggle on a pan-Lancashire basis and will be even worse when down into 3. Blackpool and Blackburn spend about 80% of their budgets on adult social care. Do you want that for Wyre?
Councillor Marinell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Where planning is concerned, currently we have a duty to cooperate with other boroughs that come to us to ask for houses being built within the borough. Currently we can just say no because we just don't have the land or we just don't want to bother or whatever it might be, but that's going to change with Angela Rayner to start with. But the problem is, even worse, if it does become a unitary and we are lumped in with Blackpool and Lancaster and Fylde, Blackpool are going to come to us with a duty to cooperate, which won't be there anymore because it will be a unitary, and therefore we've got Blackpool and Lancaster making decisions on dumping 11,000 houses that Blackpool need to build because of Angela Rayner's numbers, and where they're going to be dumped. It certainly is anywhere in Blackpool because they haven't got the space for it. It's going to be here in Wyre, the majority of them, and that is a frightening prospect. That's one simple reason not to have a unitary, just because of that itself. You yourself, Councillor Fales, already said this evening about the developments being built within Wyre and that it's too big and there's too many and there's not enough space. You turn this into a unitary and you've got another 11,000 plus our 6,000 on top of that. Where are they all going to go? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Steve. It's unusual we've got to this stage and not heard from you.
I'm obliged to you, Madam Mayor. I've got a lot of stuff written down here. so I'm hoping I can get through it and...
You've got 5 minutes.
That's good stuff. Right, Councillor Vincent, earlier you said, referring to this, I assume you was referring to this notice of motion, or commenting on it, about, and you said that you really didn't have a clue, or you intimated that you didn't have a clue of what really was going to happen with this proposed legislation, and that you would keep us all informed by a newsletter. You did say that, did you not? Well, you did say that, so no getting out of it. No, it's no point in running scared at all. You know, you probably are, because this motion is exactly what you're doing. A good old Shakespearean quote is here. Now, to be or not to be, that is the question. And, of course, we do...
Is there a question in here, Councillor Stevenson, for them?
As Councillor Fail has just said...
Now is the winter of our discontent.
Yeah. Can I continue, Madam Mayor? I've a lot to say.
You've got 2 minutes.
I feel that this notice of motion, you know, has it been written in a telephone booth or something? It's ill thought out, and it's a sort of a knee-jerk reaction to something what's annoying you, the fact that you're facing a Labour government with 172 parliamentary majority, and you have to do something about it. I'd like now to delve deeper, if I may. I'd like to delve into the question of a referendum. Now, if it came to a referendum, it could end up as a comedy of errors, you never know, but if it did, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for the referendum? Is it going to be central government, or is it going to be the taxpayer of Wyre? You've got to make that clear when you just pluck something out of the air. Now let's...
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. I'm sorry, but you've had your 5 minutes.
No, you haven't had me 5 minutes yet.
Oh, you have. Thank you very much.
Let me know when I've got my 5 minutes, so you'll have to put up with it for a bit longer.
No, we're on 5 minutes, Councillor. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyway, what is it going...
Thank you. I don't know if Councillor Vincent, if you want to respond to that.
I will, Madam Mayor. The motion, Councillor Stevenson...
I haven't finished yet, Madam Mayor.
25 minutes, Brian. The motion, Councillor Stevenson, is to resolve to have a referendum and set the question at the appropriate time to send a message to government that we will not take this lying down and that we will actually speak to the people and not just allow them to ride roughshod over us if they choose to do that. It's very important that we do this. Ribble Valley did this and it got back to government, so this will not fall on deaf ears.
I haven't... May I continue, Madam Mayor?
No, thank you. You've had your question now. We'll move on to Councillor. Thank you very much, Councillor. No, you have had your 5 minutes. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. To Councillor Higginson's question. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time.
You're denying me the right to speak.
I have 5 minutes, Councillor.
You are denying me the right to speak.
I am not denying you. You've had 5 minutes. You have had 5 minutes.
You're rudely interrupt me.
You've had 5 minutes. The same as everybody else. You have. Thank you very much. Councillor Higginson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think I've ever known councillors to be so excited. I wish I could take shorthand with so much information, but did you say at the beginning about these, was it 5 or 6 unnamed Labour MPs? Was that what you actually said? In that case, this is nothing more than just speculation. That's all it is. How can you try to out 6 MPs and there's no name? It's absolute nonsense. So it doesn't make any sense at all. It really doesn't make sense. And you must also be psychic because this council person who's not published yet, so, you know, I really don't think you can support this at all, and especially when you're talking about unnamed individuals, it therefore becomes speculative.
Well, I named one of them, Madam Mayor, and it was Oliver Ryan MP. I suspect that another MP might have signed it, which might explain where she is tonight. Cat Smith isn't one who signed it. We know two of the other MPs who signed it. So it's not speculation, Councillor Higginson, it is fact. The fact that your MPs are too cowardly to come out and put their names to it is not, or it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst I fully endorse what has been said by the leader and Councillor Peter Le Marinel, I just want to take another slant on this. We've now got the combined authority for Lancashire, and as I mentioned at the last council meeting, we need to show that local authorities can work together and make it a success. To start conversations now about an elected mayor and local government reorganisation would at best be a distraction, but would most likely cause further division within the county and disruption to the work of the combined authority, which is the last thing that we want. If we get the combined authority working successfully, then further down the line we can see what further delegated powers we want from central government to deliver better services to our residents, and it may very well be that we can exercise those without the local government reorganisation some are seeking. I think this is important. I want to see that Lancashire prospers, and to be quite honest, having these conversations about mayors and having dividing the county up into different electoral divisions is not going to help the situation. We've had conversations going on for the last 8 years about this, and it's got to come to a stop. We've got to go forward with what we've got and make Lancashire prosperous.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent, as the proposer of the motion, would you like to respond? No, thank you. That concludes the debate, so we'll now move on to the vote. Will those in favour of the motion please show? Those against? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. The second notice of motion has been submitted by councillors Higginson, Fielding, Molyneux and Blair, which is set out on full page 83 of your agendas. Councillor Higginson, would you please propose the motion? You have a maximum of 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say that this is not a party political motion. I'd rather describe it as a motion for common sense. At the last meeting, if you recall, I called for a point of order in order that we could lift the 10-minute rule, purely, and we had confirmation of the minutes earlier, if you recall, purely so that we could have a proper debate about contamination. Several questions needed to be asked, and it was like trying to get a quart into a pint pot. And I think that you did try to assist us with this. But I was very disappointed that Councillor Berry, who was standing in for the leader of the council, chose to make it a party political issue. And as a consequence, I had no option but to call for a recorded vote. I think had he not done, this vote for common sense would have been carried. It was lost by 5 votes. The only members in this council chamber that voted against lifting the 10-minute rule was in the ruling group. We had support from the independent, reform even, pre-Zoll residents, because it's a ridiculous scenario when we're desperately trying to get answers. And I did say at the time, this is a borough issue. So I was very disappointed, and it put you, Madam Mayor, in a very difficult position, as I recall. I thought you chaired the meeting with a lot of integrity, and in fact, you were quite polite and accommodating when Councillor Stevenson, for example, had asked a question, and you did say, well, the 10 minutes is up, but I will take the question. You used your discretion, and this is what this is about. And I would rather have the Mayor's discretion guide how much time we have to debate these things, rather than having 10 minutes, especially when we're dealing with things that is of such fundamental importance. I mean, you can vote against it if you want to, but why would you do that? Why is it that a lot of people from the ruling group don't engage? I'd like to think it was probably because there isn't time. And if there isn't time, then you must vote for this motion. But if it's because you don't want to engage, I don't understand. This is a council chamber. It's where we debate, it's where we argue, it's where we try to influence, support. And this is how council policy is made. So to have the restraint to a 10-minute rule doesn't make any sense to me. And I'll tell you what, I bet it doesn't make any sense to people out there either. If you was at a football match, and I know that Councillor Vincent sometimes goes to football matches because I saw you on the telly the other night when Blackpool played Wigan. But if this was a football match, if it was, and there was a player that was seriously injured, there'd be stoppage time. And before the interval, the fourth official would indicate there'll be a minimum of 10 minutes additional stoppage if it's a serious injury. Just imagine that. 10 minutes additional time. Here, it's 10 minutes maximum time. It's an absolute nonsense. I mean, you can imagine, can't you? This is your big chance. Here you are, you've made the effort to attend, you've put your best kit on, you look very, very smart, but why don't you engage? I don't understand it at all. So really, this is before you because it should be a motion for common sense. I mean, if you went to a party, can you imagine going to a party with this lot? They'd be sat there, they wouldn't speak to anyone, and at 8:10 they'd probably be putting the coats on anyway. What is the point? You need to engage, and this really is a motion about common sense. And I would much rather that councillors here rely on the discretion of the Mayor. The council taxpayers of Wyre deserve this, the councillors of Wyre deserve this, and we need time to debate things properly. If you don't want to vote for the motion, you will in fact be voting to stifle debate, and that surely isn't what it's about. How many people knocks on the door and say, will you vote for me? Because if I get elected, I'll come here and I'll not engage in debate. No, not at all. So do support this, please. It's for the benefit of all of us. And could I also request that we have a recorded vote, Madam Mayor? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fielding, I understand you're going to second the motion.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. I'll second the motion and reserve my right to speak in future.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any members who wish to speak for or against the motion to propose amendment please indicate? You'll have up to 5 minutes each. Councillor Vincent, I know you indicated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Chorley, Rossendale, South Ribble and West Lancashire councils are all controlled by the Labour Party, and none of them have any executive report at all. This means there is no opportunity for the Leader and Cabinet to be asked questions at full council on any matters that members may wish to ask about. Blackpool, Preston and Blackburn all have time limits of some sort. The 10-minute rule allows the business of the council to be conducted in a timely and focused way, which has worked well for years. Members may pass a motion without notice to remove this on any item where that is required, but it is noted that this has rarely been used by members. Next year, the Constitution is subject to an external review. It will be fully considered and then advice given to the Council about any changes that may be required to conform to best practice. The 10-minute rule will be reviewed as part of that process. I intend to propose that a working group then be set up to consider the advice we receive and make proposals to Council, and as a working group, that will be politically balanced. I do not favour the abolition of the rule, but that will be a matter for full Council when the advice has been received by the working group and they have reported to this Council. As such, I propose to amend the motion to read, this Council review the Constitution, including the 10-minute rule, as described in Procedure Rule 11 in 2025.
Rebecca Huddleston, would you please advise on whether or not the amendment is valid?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that as a valid amendment.
Is there a seconder for amendment? Do any members wish to speak for or against the amendment? Councillor Stevenson. There's 5 minutes as well, sorry, don't want to put a time on it, but that's what we've got here and now.
I'm obliged to you, Madam Mayor, and I'm regretful about being rather forceful.
That's okay, go with your 5 minutes now then, Councillor.
What exactly, the Chief Executive might be able to help us on this, what sort of power or authority has the Mayor got as regards, Jane, you allowed Kevin to speak longer.
This about the amendment, Councillor.
What authority, can you, if you so wish, can you, extend it to 12 minutes? Is there any rule which says that you have to stop when you're told to by the Chief Executive? Now, that's all I'm asking, because I do accept what Michael said, that it could well be a good idea, if we don't get the motion passed today, for certainly to set up a group of senior councillors who can look at this and then come back here with something positive. So that's what I'm really asking. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Certainly do. Thank you for the question.
What is your prerogative and how long can you give? Over 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Higginson, back to you.
Yeah, on this amendment, I just want, on a point of clarification, have you got a seconder for the amendment? Oh, you have? So
it was already second, it was already second, yes.
I mean, it beggars belief, this lot, doesn't it? So the amendment basically is to do nothing, isn't it? We'll take it away and we'll have a look at it and we'll do note. That's all I have to say, thank you. And thank you for the clarification, thank you.
Councillor Rimmer.
Just a very short comment that I appreciate the spirit behind the original motion and the amendment. I think that when we have particularly important debates, we do need some flexibility, and to be able to extend that. My only concern is that the wording of the current motion to indefinitely have no 10-minute rule at all might make meetings a little bit lengthy, and kind of we do have some target to stick to, does help in my opinion, but I do appreciate the point, and I think where we have particularly important things requested, that should be examined in more detail.
So, Councillor Vincent, as the proposing the amendment, please would you respond? Councillor Fail.
Just to clarify, the passing of the original motion doesn't mean that that comes into place immediately, and the reason it doesn't come into place immediately is the same reason it didn't come into place immediately the last time that we passed one of these things in about 2018, back into 2018, we put forward a motion saying extend the time to 15 minutes. It was amended to 11 minutes by the Conservative group and never enacted, and therefore The operative word in this motion is to commit, and it's about committing to something that would later be updated when the Constitution is reviewed. So this is a longer term thing. The expectation is not to change it now, although we believe that it should be changed. You can't do that. You need to change this Constitution separately. So this is about committing to it, okay? Just a clarification.
Councillor Vincent, thank you.
We're not committing we're going to do nothing. What we're saying is we're having some consultants come in next year anyway to look at the whole Constitution, because it's not been looked at as a whole document externally for quite some time. They're going to look at it. I've then committed to say, once we've got their advice, we'll form a working group. That working group will be political balance, so it won't just be the Conservatives, and that group will then report into full council and we will consider it, and it will be considered as part of that. So that's a more concrete plan for looking at this than us just making a commitment to look at it. So it's better than what you asked for.
So we will now move to vote on the amendment. Will those in favour please show? Those against? Any abstentions? The amendment is carried. The motion is as amended, therefore takes the place of the original motion. Do any members wish to propose any further amendments so that the amendment to amend motion, which has now become the substantive motion?
I don't know if this is a valid amendment, but it seems to me that if we're waiting for a consultant and a working group to do something, that this isn't going to happen for a long time. And in the meantime, there could be an important debate that could be extended by more than 10 minutes.
Councillor Vincent, thank you.
There's already a provision in the Constitution that says that where there is something that is worthwhile and needs a bigger debate, a motion can be proposed without notice, and that then can be extended.
Okay,
so there is already
that's
something
fine.
in the Constitution, and in answer to what Councillor Higginson said, the mayor is the mayor. She's judge, jury and executioner, so she can do whatever she wants to do. So if the mayor decides to extend a debate, the mayor extends the debate. So that's clear. So we don't need to do anything in the interim.
Then no, thank you.
Councillor Stevenson.
Councillor Vincent's just explained that. That's all I was going to ask.
Thank you.
You have the authority, or to continue on as you saw with.
Councillor Higginson.
Yeah, it's me again. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Well, are you looking now for an additional amendment? Because if you are, my amendment would be that we extend in the interim period until this review goes ahead. Trying to find some centre ground here. That we, in the interim period, extend the 10-minute rule to 15 minutes. I think that that's a fair compromise, and bearing in mind, again, what we are dealing with when as the councillor over there said, about important issues such as the one that's currently on the agenda about contamination. Please, cut us some slack here. My amendment is that it would be to extend the 10-minute rule to 15 minutes. Thank you.
I'd like to second that. Seconded it, Kevin.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, to try and cut through all of this, I'm not going to suggest to our group that we vote to extend to 15 minutes. We've said that it's being reviewed, that's the appropriate thing to do. If there is a serious issue where the members of the opposition want to extend the debate by a longer period than 10 minutes, if Councillor Fayle reaches out to me prior to a meeting and it's a reasonable request, I will recommend to my group that we suspend the 10-minute rule on that item, on that report, so we can debate that issue. I consider that to be a perfectly fair compromise while we await the recommendations.
And again, I'll call on with that to say if there is a request to go in to have any extension on questions, I'm quite happy, as you've rightly said, I will use discretion to understand if we need that extra time, and we can use that to be able to answer any questions in a sensible time when needed. Do you still wish to carry on with the amendment, Councillor Higginson, or are you happy with what we've just agreed with? So we'll move to the vote on the amendment. Can those in favour please show their hands? Those against? Any abstentions? So the amendment is lost. So yeah, we will do. All those for the original amendment, please. Amended recommendation, please show. Yeah, so the substantive motion, the amended recommendation. And so the substantive motion. The one that Councillor Vigilson. Those against? Any abstentions? So the substantive motion is carried. So if anybody has, that concludes the business. If anybody has got